We can get going. We've got minutes. We can see if anyone from the public is here that wants to speak. I know we did receive an email from someone or a phone call from.
Brittany, would you mind taking a roll call, please?
Yeah. Amanda Aird.
Here.
Jim Barnes.
Here.
Dahi Chen.
Here.
Daniel Christensen. Nate Early.
Here.
Jennifer Link Rashko. And Jeff Redman.
All right, thank you. Everybody's received the minutes. Does anybody have any questions on the minutes from the prior meeting? Seeing none and hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Dahi, would you like to second that?
Yes, I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Thank you. Brittany, do we have anybody online for citizen input? Or Brian, anything to read?
Nope.
Nothing was submitted.
Okay. All right, then we will move forward to the director's report from our new director, Chris Ammerman. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the line. The Community Opportunity Grant Review, I got that out of order, sorry. Opportunity grants first. So Brian, do you want to kind of just rerun us through the ground rules?
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully Parks and Rec Advisory Board members, you have received all applicants and had the opportunity to review those prior to tonight's meeting. Looking at those in comparison to the opportunity grant guidelines. So as we discuss things tonight, just be ensured that what you hear and what's presented in front of you does meet those guidelines. Just as a reminder, they do have to be used for a specific project or an element of a project. We want to make sure that the budget presented does clearly explain how those funds are going to be used. And does the application have a reasonable timeline for completion? And do we believe that the applicant's able to complete the project in the timeline that's been presented? Obviously, with this opportunity grant, wide range of projects can be funded, educational, artistic, anything that can further diversity or community involvement within the community, entertainment, personal growth, whatever you might call out are applicable funds, but just being sure that they do meet everything that we do have in the guidelines. As a reminder, how the process will work tonight, this is both for the advisory board and those of you who are present tonight. Each applicant will receive 3 minutes. At that point, Brittany will allow you into this meeting so you're able to be seen and be heard by the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I will keep a timer on this end, and at 3 minutes, we'll attempt to let you know that your time has expired. At that point, the advisory board will have the opportunity to ask you a few questions. At that point, you will exit. The next applicant will come in. We'll repeat that process through the 4 applicants. At that time, the board will have the opportunity to discuss. And tonight, we'll make a decision on who will be funded and at what amount. There is $12,500 available tonight. Whatever is not spent tonight will carry over to the next opportunity grant cycle. But given the number of applicants, you do have well beyond $12,500 for, but it's up to the board to see how those funds are dispersed. Jim, you might be on mute.
Just for the record, Jennifer has joined us. And I think, Brian, thank you for that summary. And I think we are ready for the first group, which would be Learn to Skate Day with Cameron Kastner.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I'm going to be trying to run Learn to Skate Day. It's going to be May 21st. And my proposal is for to get skateboards and helmets to give out to all the students. And the idea is really simple. Just buy the skateboards and helmets, give them to the students, teach them a lesson then and there. And then they'll take the skateboards home and then they'll be skateboarders. I have the backing of the United Skateboard Education Association to help with this project. And I'm gonna run the program regardless of whether I get the grant, but this will go a long way to help with the program. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. It's a pretty simple idea and program. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a couple, but I'll let the other board members go first if anybody has any.
Where are you planning on running this at?
Either Memorial Park or the Chuck Green Skate Plaza.
To which plaza?
The Chuck Green Skate Plaza. It's the second skate park in Wilsonville. I can't think of exactly where it's at. I can't think of the park it's in.
Would you be the one that is training people on how to skateboard?
Yeah, currently I'm the only instructor. I've found one more who's interested, and the United States Skateboard Education Association might be able to help me bring in another instructor.
And can you tell us a little bit about your background for being qualified to do this, and as your organization or you been in one of the applicant criteria is, either having been in operation for 12 months or showing sort of a project leadership skill and fund management skill?
So I've been a snowboard instructor for over 10 years. This is actually this year was my first time running a skateboard project, but doing snowboarding for 10 years, a lot of the skills transferred over. And then I started the skateboarding project with the Parks and Rec department at the city of Wilsonville. We got a couple of students. I did run into a small issue there. I got the project information turned in late, so didn't get it into the activity guide, but I'm gonna make sure all that paperwork gets turned in on time. So everything gets in the activity guide, and then everything should run pretty smoothly this time.
Did you have much participation in your event?
We only ended up with like 2 students because all the information had to go out online. And for Parks and Rec, most of the stuff, my understanding is most of the information people get is through the activity guide.
Okay.
Is this geared towards girls or boys or both, and what age group?
So it's geared towards both, and I'm looking just kids in general, anybody under the age of 18, but I don't want to be exclusive, because as far as the skateboards go, once you reach a certain size of skateboard, pretty much anyone could use it. So if an adult wants to come out and learn to skate, I don't want to say no. I want to remove those types of barriers for people, but definitely it's going to be geared more towards kids.
What kind of fundamentals are you going to teach? And do you Are you supplying the skateboards and safety equipment, or do they?
Well, that's the point of the $3,000 grant, is to buy the skateboards and helmets so we can give them to them to take home. Otherwise, they have to provide their own equipment, or I have to provide some equipment for them, but I would have to keep it. And the main skills we go over in a beginner lesson is pushing, skating, pumping, and turning.
Thank you.
Could you include picking up garbage when you're done skating? That one.
Yeah.
Or the etiquette side.
Yeah, the etiquette side.
What's your goal to recruit more people this time around? Or how do you plan on going about getting more people involved?
Well, definitely part of it is to get it into the activity guide earlier. And then going on being at the skate parks was going to help. One of the people who I'm talking with is at the skate park pretty regularly. I'm going to be at the winter work in the, but he's going to be down in the skate parks. And then reaching out to some of the schools to try and get people in if they're willing to allow me to work with the schools.
Okay. Any other questions for Cameron? Again, I just would mention I've been out of the school system for a while, but my past experience, I don't know if it's changed, my past experience is it's kind of tough to get into some of the school communications because they've gotten so many requests, they pretty much said, no, we can't take it.
Yeah.
But
I do actually know at least one person in the school who actually happens to skate. It's the band director there. I have to get his information though.
Okay.
So
it's good to have an in.
Yeah.
So have you ever explored the possibility of rentals?
I've considered it, but the problem is renting helmets. Actually, the Wilsonville Parks and Rec, basically, they said I'm not allowed to rent out helmets for insurance reasons or legal reasons. And so as far as running a program like that, I could do skateboards, but I couldn't do helmets.
Interesting. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brittany, do you want to move us to the Charbonneau Arts Association, please?
There I am. Okay. Good evening. I'm Kathy McLean. I'm president of Charbonneau Arts Association, and Elaine Swite is with me. She's our board vice president. In case you have any questions about two of the three items we're applying for with the funds from this grant. Elaine's expertise as web administrator and the fact that she donates her time and most of her expenses have been crucial to our success, and especially for our 37th annual festival, which was held virtually and it included a virtual gallery, music stage, and virtual silent auction that generated over 5,000 visits and resulted in our ability to donate $3,200 each to Canby and Wilsonville high schools. COVID-19 has had an impact on the arts everywhere. And just when we thought we were going to return to normal in 2021, the Delta surge inspired us to postpone our November festival until June of 2022, when the new Charbonneau activities building will be complete, and we can expect warmer weather so we can use the outdoor covered pavilion for a music stage and outdoor dining. Changing the season also allows us to take advantage of our collaboration agreement with Wilsonville Arts and Culture Council and to dovetail with their June events. It has also allowed us to become an official Portland Rose Festival community partner. With the growth of our festival and the ability to attract more artists and artisans, advertising is a big ticket item and crucial to gaining exposure for the event. And that is part of our partnership with Pamplin Media. Just as importantly, we are looking for all avenues that can free up Elaine's time from designing and administering the registration program on the website and coordinating the silent art auction and art sales processing. While it's difficult to find volunteers who can do what Elaine does, Zapplication and Greater Giving are both programs that others can take on for these important tasks. Finally, as our festival organizing committee chair frequently reminds us, we are hoping to host the best art festival yet, but keep our eyes on the goal, which is to raise money for the kids. Subscribing to services and programs that streamline our systems and generate buzz and attendance from the media will help us to do just that. Thank you for your time, and we are available for questions.
Thank you, Kathy. I also wanted to recognize that you guys did an excellent job of providing a summary of your of the prior programs that we've funded. So it was a nice write-up on that and really explained what you did with the fund. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to the board for questions.
Have you guys had demonstrations from the, I think it was Zapplication, and I don't remember what you said the other one was, but are you sure that those two platforms are going to meet your needs?
Yes, Zapplication seems to provide the interactivity that we need. The other platforms, although less expensive, are a little kludgy in the way in which they approach the artist who is applying. So that I think is Zapplications. It also offers the publicity that I think will add to what we already are working with Pamplin Media.
Okay, publicity, and is it kind of shoots out like mail?
Yeah, they email their entire database with all of the art festivals that are in play. Okay. And so it's a huge database. So it helps our publicity as well.
Okay.
On the Z application, is that an annual fee, or that $1,600, is that an annual fee?
The $1,100 is an annual fee. So we're going to have to find some way to absorb it in the future, but we wanted to try it and then maybe try to replicate it.
Did I misread something? Okay. I thought the Z application was $1,600 and you just said $1,100. Am I missing something?
No, $500 is the upfront setup fee.
Oh, okay.
That's to, yeah, you know, they get you what the $500 fee.
Thank you. very thorough application that you presented. Any other questions from the group? On the advertising, I know you're looking for 2,100. If you weren't able to get all of that funding, how would you move forward?
Well, actually, we're looking for 2,600, but
correct.
We will just reduce the amount that we spend and hope that Pamplin picks. If we can't get the grants, they may pick up the slack, but we would probably reduce the number of publications we advertise in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our next applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Do you hear me?
We do.
Very good. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you about our proposal to fund and design and build a Korean War Memorial Interpretive Center in the Parks and Recreation Building in Wilsonville. I'm Chuck Lasardi, a Korean War veteran, served in Korea from 51, 52, 25th Division, 65th Combat Engineers. I'm also president of the Korean War Veterans Association, Oregon Trail Chapter. We're a group of approximately 60 today, and we're veterans. The veterans that attend our monthly meeting at the Holiday Inn here in Wilsonville now, since the COVID has moved us out of our previous meeting place. I'm a board member of KWMFO, the Korean War Memorial Foundation of Oregon also, and that is the organization requesting funding. Greg Caldwell, who's the chair of KWMFO and the author of the grant application, is out of state here this week. So he asked me to speak in his place this evening. I was a member of KWVA Oregon Trail Chapter in 1996 when the idea for building the Oregon Korean War Memorial in Wilsonville was first proposed. At that time, the veterans worked with Senator John Lim, the first Korean-born elected member of the Oregon Senate, and with the Korean American community and the Korean government and the city of Wilsonville to build the Oregon Korean War Memorial, which has stood proudly in the town center park now since the year 2000. All of our Korean War veterans have a special place in our hearts for the memorial. As you know, thousands of visitors have visited the memorial here and attend events on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and to commemorate the June 25th start of the Korean War. Over the years, many Korean delegations, including that of the former Korean President Kim Dae-jung, have visited the memorial and paid their respects. But while the memorial's a fitting tribute to the 298 Oregonians who lost their lives and their names are inscribed on the memorial wall, the monument itself is a static monument, beautiful, very meaningful, but still static. As Korean War veterans, what we want to do is to help the monument come alive for visitors and educate the public, especially students and young people, about the Korean War as it relates to Oregonians, why it happened, what it cost, and the sacrifices made. We want visitors to hear the stories through journals, videos, and the like. We want visitors to see photos of the struggles and the cost, and importantly, the lessons learned. We want visitors to understand that freedom is not free, as it states on the memorial wall itself. And it was many of the Korean War veterans, almost invariably, if you ask them today whether the Korean War was something that had a meaning, they will all tell you that it was definitely worth the sacrifice, both personally and as a nation. Because if you look at Korea today, a free, independent, prosperous democracy and a friend of the United States, that's how we, the Korean War veterans, feel to this day about that. The Interpretive Center would be a place that would fill out the knowledge that people might gain about the Korean War, its impact on both the nation and the state of Oregon, which has been pretty significant and meaningful, even to include the Holt Foundation and the orphans that have and continue to this day to find a home here in this country. That's what we are looking for, funds to complete this project. The project has been initiated here in the year 2000 or 2020, and we hope to have that project completed here in 2022.
Hey,
so that's our request.
Perfect. Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Chuck, yeah, I think your application was very well prepared, very thorough, so I appreciate that quite a bit. I also appreciate and acknowledge that you guys have done a great job of securing a substantial amount of the funding for that project already.
Yes, we have.
One of the questions that I had on that was on the design build portion of the project. That cost was, not that I have any knowledge of it, it just seemed kind of like a high cost on that. Can you tell us a little bit more about what goes into that portion of the project?
Well, the original cost quoted to us by Formations, which is the firm that was designated to do the project for us, was $126,000. That includes both the hardware and the display elements for the project, which would be encompassed in the building, the Parks and Rec building, in approximately 350 to 400 square feet of area that has been designated for the project. The specifics of what that hardware includes, what we are aiming at is kiosk, interactive video, audio video, that would contain the information that would be accessible by the visitor by, if you will, in today's push button world, by push button activation of video and audio devices, along with hard components that would be display cases for items that were associated with the Korean War, personal items, those items that were in use in that era, and also a considerable amount of display that would relate to the actual physical layout of what the Korean Peninsula and the Korean War, how it involved that peninsula. in the form of a three-dimensional topographical type displays that would show areas of activity and highlight the key elements of the Korean War, which covers a pretty broad spectrum.
All right, thank you. Other questions from the board members?
Will the project continue even if you don't get the full 12,500 that you've requested?
Oh, yes, the project will continue. And this project is, you know, we work did when we had the memorial first proposed and built. Our project is a coalition of the KWMFO, the Korean War Memorial Foundation of Oregon, which is basically the greater Korean community here in Oregon, particularly the metropolitan area, but throughout the state, and the KWVA, Korean War Veterans Association, Oregon Trail Chapter, which is the one significantly active chapter of the Korean War veterans left. There aren't many of us Korean War veterans left. We're all 89, 90, 100 years old, and we are fading out fast. As a matter of fact, I received a call today about one of our members, Gene Evers, who's 93, former POW, and he's probably going to make it through the weekend. So I'll lose another one. Being president of the chapter, when we started when I started in 95, we had 200 members on our roster. We are down to less than 100. But as it stands, the other element of the three-legged stool, as we call it, for this project and for the memorial itself is the city of Wilsonville, because we have always appreciated the fact that the city of Wilsonville has been our host, one of the best we could have ever been blessed with. And the future of both the memorial and the interpretive center will reside primarily with KWMFO and the city of Wilsonville, even if we, KWVA, fade into oblivion.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Creates the instructional videos and other content that'll be displayed there.
We are supplying information and data and components to Formations Company as we speak. We have been working with them for the past, roughly a year, I would say. And in this process, we are providing the details of what and guiding them in terms of what we think is significant that would be best put forth for these presentations. Their expertise, which has been nationwide, they have projects, and ours, by the way, is a relatively small project, even though we're looking at 126,000 that they have asked for in the project. We are saying that the project, we'd like to have more dollars than that since we started the project. The inflation factor has taken a significant toll. But as it stands right now, the information that we're putting forth, they are responsible for putting that into a context and a format that can be displayed that will be most effective. We are providing one additional thing, excuse me for my long statements, but the other thing we are providing, we are actually actively interviewing and documenting video audios of our remaining veterans. We've been doing this for a long time. And each of those stories will be a 3 to 4 minute vignette, which will be part of those elements that can be accessed on the kiosk that we hope to see be a major part of the project.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other questions?
Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Chuck. We'll be getting back to you. Brittany, would you please move us to our next project?
Hello, am I coming through?
Yes.
Excellent, great. Thanks very much for the opportunity. And I'm Jay Edwards. I'm the treasurer of the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Community. And a little bit of background on WAKE. WAKE is, our definition is people who envision Wilsonville as a diverse, inclusive, and equitable place. And I included a few different line items in my proposal, but the one that I'm going to focus on is called the equity matrix and outreach line item. And I'll speak a little bit around what that is, the work that it would entail, and some of the context as far as what the city is doing and how it kind of dovetails with city initiatives. So fortunately, the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Community is already an emerging resource for both sharing and affirming diverse stories and experiences. But there's an opportunity and a need to expand this work. Now, I'm fortunate to be one of the members of the Wilsonville DEI committee. And as the committee does its work and begins its work, it's becoming more and more clear that one of our challenges is kind of in the category of not knowing what we don't know. Which is kind of a good, healthy place to start. But what we need to get in front of us is really a good way to understand, as I mentioned, these diverse life experiences and utilization of those experiences to help inform the recommendations that we're tasked with in regards to the city's operations and how they move forward. So the idea is to have the equity matrix and outreach project as a way to bridge this gap. So we would work not only with communities within Wilsonville to again learn these stories and these experiences, but also do so with other groups in the region, other organizations in the region that do this similar work. So those things that would come together to help inform our recommendations to the city as they move forward. And I'm famously a man of few words. That's pretty much all I have, but I welcome questions.
All right, thank you. Just one of the questions I had was, you mentioned the equity matrix outreach as one of your primary goals with a budget of $3,000. What would that money be spent on? Like, how would that manifest itself?
Primarily, it would give us some support on the administrative side. We're a volunteer organization, but as we kind of engage more with other groups and kind of take on more of the task of communicating our requests for input more broadly, and getting frankly organized and getting our website filled out and kind of built up, there's a need to hire a resource for that. So again, we're really a volunteer organization except for the need for admin support.
I believe, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the grants can be used to hire staff or pay have paid staff or paid volunteers.
Oh, I see.
Jim, I'll read exactly what it says. It doesn't preclude it, but we do say the board has traditionally not covered expenses related to staff or paid volunteers. General operating expenses are not eligible for grant funds, with the exception of space rental to facilitate a project. So nothing that would explicitly preclude it, but has been the general practice of the board.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Brian. And then I think the other key part of your guys' program was the anti-racism training for community members and leaders. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that exactly would be spent, what those funds would go to?
Yeah, that again would allow us to get really some training in place, and trained trainers in place for that type of activity. We've had some discussions with the city around that. There's actually some parallel work kind of going on in that area. So it wasn't really our lead ask in this case, because it's not the towering need that we've seen.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask, if you guys were collaborating with We Are Wilsonville, because I feel like the last round of funding, they may have had a similar training request.
Right. Yeah, I'm aware of it, and that's kind of why it might be a bit redundant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was sort of one of my questions as well, Amanda, is it, how does, we just, I think it was our last cycle, maybe we gave 8,000 to the We Are Wilsonville program. And as I look at their goals and your goals, they highly correlate towards each other. And then as you mentioned, the city of Wilsonville has the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that's trying to figure out how they're going to move forward, exactly what you're a part of. And so I was just trying to figure out how your group was sort of uniquely different or providing different services.
Sure, and this is kind of to the point of the DEI committee, is kind of getting the information required to make recommendations. And we've been doing some strategy work in the DEI committee recently, which has been pretty exciting. We're getting close to having that done. But ultimately, we're the place where the cities ask in terms of guidance and direction, or at least input. We're the crossroad between that ask and understanding what the community is saying. And getting to what the community is saying is going to be the next big push, because we have to, obviously engage, make sure we're engaging effectively, and gain those stories from those who have input. So that's the data that we're going to have to really get our arms around to give quality recommendations to the city.
Okay. And is the grant funding the only sort of source of funding you have at the moment?
We have other grant applications in process, and we're also going to start to ask for donations on the website, which we have not done thus far. So we're going to kind of have at least a couple of different streams as we continue to ramp up.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board?
How are you going to identify the metrics? And I'm sorry if that was already asked. I had to take something out of the oven.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how do you have some brainstorm about how you guys are going to go about identifying the matrix within Wilsonville?
Yeah, it's kind of where we're at with the DEI committee and also with this outreach initiative. A lot of it comes down to both, the hard data and also the stories, because hard numbers are useful, but a lot of rich information comes from understanding people's stories and how they got to where they are today, what brought them here, where they hope to go in the future. So that that qualitative richness of information is what we really want, because that paints a more full picture. So there'll be a mix of, again, numbers, but also stories and background, and really just understanding where people are in their journey.
Okay. Other questions? I guess maybe one I had is, we talk about under the equity matrix, identifying key metrics or issues, housing. I did a little research. It seems like there's a lot of information out there on that topic already. Are you basically going to go look at that data to try and say, here's some recommendations for Wilsonville? Or are you trying to get more Wilsonville specific data? I wasn't quite sure what new data you would be coming up with or utilizing.
Yeah, I think kind of similar to the last question, it would be things to complement the numbers. I think what's more well documented are some of the top level metrics around, be it income, be it folks who live in certain types of dwellings, and the correlated income with those groups. But in terms of understanding what that means, the human impact, that might not be as well. It's often discussed. Why it's important to have people in various either housing units or what is done for them as far as their life impact. So kind of building that out is what we want to really do.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Sure.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I think we'll wrap up this segment. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Then Brittany, if you'll bring us back to the core board group, we can begin discussion of the different projects. Remember, what we want to get out of this discussion is ultimately a recommendation. So we'll talk about each of the groups, what we think what each of you are interested in supporting from a funding perspective. As we get some kind of a little bit of a group consensus, we'll need to get a recommendation from somebody for an actual funding proposal broken out by organization. So for example, organization A, 0, organization B, 5,000, organization C, 5,000, organization D, 2,000. But at the end of our discussion, we need to have a proposal. We will then discuss that proposal. If it makes it through discussion, vote on it. If not, it'll get revamped until we get to something that the group agrees to. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion. If nobody has an opening that they want to start with, I can do so. Not hearing any volunteers, I will get the proverbial ball rolling.
I'll start.
Hey, Dahi.
All right. I'm just going to altogether. In principle, I'm kind of against providing funds for Congregate and the last one, the academic matrix. The reason for that is that for the Congregate, from sounds to me, it's just a one-shot deal, and I don't know. Okay, the homemade part, and so that cannot be rented, and there are some other ways to accomplish that. For instance, you could potentially just buy 1 or 2 and then rotate them among the kids. It's not even clear the kids have any interest of doing that. And for the skateboards, I would think that you can rent them somewhere. Since again, the kids we don't even know the kids have any interest. Spending $3,000 on that seems to be a kind of waste for me. And the last one, my general feeling or impression is it's very abstract to me. I listened to a lot of questions. I actually had a lot of questions when I read the proposal, but I just didn't know what the questions asked because it's very abstract. I can't visualize what exactly happening and what they're trying to do there. And also based on the presentation and the questions just asked about other board members, I still do not have a clear picture what's going to happen.
Dahi, are you referring to the Alliance? Are you referring to the last presentation, the Wilsonville Alliance?
That's correct. Yeah. So that was basically my opinion. My inclination at this point to support the Charbonneau Arts Association and the Korean War Memorial Foundation.
Okay. Thank you for presenting your thoughts there, Dahi. I can go next. I'm fairly similar to Dahi's thought process. as much as I love skating, spent 19 days skating in Montana this summer, hit 25 skate parks. The structure of the event I'm not real comfortable with, which is basically giving away equipment to participants. I'm not sure that I think that really fits the spirit of the community grant program. And I think it also sets up a bad precedence where we could have, whether it be other sports organizations, or I could probably come up with 15 different categories of items where people come in and say, well, we want to teach somebody to do this, and here, let's give them a $150 baseball bat or football, or pick your activity, right? I'm just not sure that really fits with the spirit of the program. I think if the funding request was more about how to sponsor an event and the money was going to the event, maybe some prizes, maybe not $3,000 worth of prizes, but otherwise, otherwise more in sponsoring an event versus giving away equipment. I think a different structure I could get behind. This structure, for me, I don't really think fits the nature of the program and sets us up for a whole lot of funding requests in the future that we're not going to want to see. Personal opinion. On the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Community, kind of seemed like, I think we just funded $8,000 pretty much in this category very recently. The Wilsonville DEI community is getting their feet underneath them. I'd kind of like to wait and see what the We Are Wilsonville group does with the $8,000 we gave them, how the DEI matures. If the DEI matures and has a need for the Wilsonville Alliance to do some operational items for us, I think that could be a clear picture in the future, but I'm not really seeing it yet today. Plus the funding goes more to staffing than to a project, which again, is not historically the spirit of the program. On the Charbonneau Arts Association, I think that the two support packages, the $1,600 and the $395 for the Z applications and platform for silent auction, I think those make sense. They're very concrete, very actionable. I'd probably maybe throw $500 to advertising and say $2,500 to Charbonneau Arts and then $10,000 to the Korean War. I think their war memorial is getting very close to being done. They're trying to get the last bit of funding to bring it to over the top, get it completed. They've clearly raised a lot of money already. And so they're just sort of looking for that last little bit to help get to the finish line. That's kind of where I would be at.
I can go next.
Sorry, can I get Jim's amounts one more time?
I was $2,500 for Charbonneau Art and 10 for the Korean War. And I'm probably more firm for the art, more firm on the $1,600 and $395 for the two platforms, and then maybe a little bit for advertising. Don't have a strong opinion on that one.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Nate, sorry.
So my thought on the skateboard grant was just my concern with getting more people involved and it really being a benefit to a large amount of people. And I just didn't feel confident based on kind of what he said that it would be a larger group this time around, significantly larger, worth $3,000. I think the Charbonneau Arts, I think it's a great platform. It does give back to youth. I think the Korean War Memorial is where I would go all in with the full amount of $12,500. I think it's what would impact the most amount of people in the community and people would get the most benefit from over a long term for the longest period of time. as well as educational value. And it really is inclusive to all age groups and diversities. And then just speaking on the inclusive committee, I think, I'm not sure that it's in line with kind of what you had mentioned with staff funds being allocated from grant money.
Thank you, Nathan. Amanda or Jennifer?
I can go. I would like to fully fund the Charbonneau Arts. I feel like they use their funds wisely whenever we've given them money. And they have a web developer that is purely voluntary, and she's basically doing all their web stuff. So having a little extra off her plate, I think would just help them. Plus, when they get funds, they donate it back to the Wilsonville community. So I think that's really cool that they do that for the, not just Wilsonville, but also Canby. I know they're outside, but it's still benefiting the community. I guess that would leave the Learn to Skate, which I think we've been advocating for, I don't know, the whole time I've been on the board. And maybe he didn't have the strongest kind of presentation, but it would be kind of nice to give him something. He's saying he's going to do this program no matter what. But Erica, maybe you can answer my question, because he did not get his registration stuff in time to actually advertise for a class. Is that what I heard?
So he was very prompt with the paperwork. He just, he brought us the idea after we had published the activity guide. So it didn't make it in because it had already been published. It's not to say that he brought it to us beforehand and didn't get his paperwork in on time. But when he had the idea, he turned it in super quick. And we advertised a little bit online. We did some social media promotion for it, and we got a couple kids signed up, and I was happy that he did run the classes with a few kids instead of just canceling, which he also could have done. Mm-hmm. And just to clarify with the helmet piece, from our end, we were not comfortable with having students that registered use a used helmet, because we didn't know what kind of condition it would be in. We would prefer them to have a new helmet. If you were to rent a helmet from another company, that company would be taking on the liability, and that probably is something that we would be more agreeable to.
Okay. I mean, is a used helmet considered something that would be on hand for whoever was running the program?
Sorry, say that again.
So if he were to have, like, if this skate program were to have a supply of skateboards and helmets to give to the kids that were registered for it, would that also be considered a used product? Like if they reused
purchasing them new.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of like my kids did lacrosse through the city, and so they just showed up and they had a bunch of lacrosse equipment that they let the kids use, and that included helmets. Could this skateboard person, I forgot what his name was already, have a certain supply of that stuff on hand, so whoever registers, if they show up and they don't have a helmet or they don't have a skateboard?
I think we're comfortable with everything but helmets.
Everything but helmets.
Yeah. And Chris or Brian, if you have anything to add, that's just, I think, where we stand with that.
Okay. That's fine. I'm just trying to get a feel for, like, does he need all $3,000? Does he cut it back a little bit?
Look, I mean, basically each helmet, and I mean, in his proposal, the skateboard was 100, and that's about right for a complete board, not top of the line. And a helmet at 50. You know, if he goes someplace and says, I want to, you know, get 5 of each, he'll, you know, probably get a decent price. So you get 5, you know, you can do $750 and get 5 of them versus $3,000 for 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can scale it.
I'm not, I mean, I would be more concerned with the skateboard versus the helmet. I think a lot of kids have helmets, and there's a lot of programs out there that are already just giving helmets out for free, bike programs and things like that. Okay, so I think I totally got off track. I would like to give all the money that we can, the $495 to the Charbonneau Arts, maybe something to the skate day, and then whatever's remaining to the Korean War Memorial Foundation. I didn't think that the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Community, I don't think he really had a plan, a very defined plan for how he was going to identify the key matrices for the community. And I think there's two other different kind of groups that are doing the same thing. So maybe if he comes back with a set plan, other than I'm just going to get the stories from the community, because I don't feel like that's $3,000 worth of cost, which is what he's got there.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer?
I would like to give something to the skateboard, because I really want to see kids getting out there and being active and doing it safely. I'm uncomfortable with giving away sports equipment, and I do think it does open up us for a lot of requests like this. At the same time, I think that this would be something worthwhile to give him some money on. Maybe, $1,500 or $2,000. I didn't think that the Wilsonville Alliance really met the criteria for the grant money. He seemed like he has a great idea, but he really wanted to use the funds to hire more people. And I just wasn't really clear about what he was going to be doing other than using it to hire a bunch more people. Other than giving the skateboard, maybe a couple $1,000s to help him, I'd like to evenly split the rest of the money between the Korean War and the Charbonneau. I think they're both very worthwhile. We've all gone over all the fine points, and I agree with what people have said in the past. I like Charbonneau. They give back to the community. They do a lot of worthwhile things. I think the Korean War Memorial is very inclusive. I think that both of these are very, very worthwhile. So that's why I'd like to split the remaining funds.
Okay, and if I can maybe refine your proposal a little bit, we have $12,500 to use your number of 2,000 for skate, leaves 10,500. Art asked for 4,095, which is less than half of the 10,500. So your proposal would be 4,095 for art, and the remaining 5,000 something, or I'm doing the math in my head, to the Korean War Memorial.
Right.
Okay.
I might just kind of tweak that. I would like to give 1,000 to the skateboard, which would leave 7,405 to the Korean War Foundation, and then 4,095 to the Charbonneau Arts.
And then Dahi, I don't have any notes here. What did you say about art, if anything? I don't think you did. I think you just went all in on Korean. No, that was Nate, sorry. Dahi, what would your actual dollars allocation recommendation be? Dahi, you're on mute if you're talking. Dahi, you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I turned that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with amended, recommended, full support for the Charbonneau Art Association, that's $4,095, and the rest goes to Korean War Memorial Foundation.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Dahi, make sure I got it right. You said $4,095 to art and all the rest to Korean War Memorial.
That's correct.
Okay. Nothing to skate or, okay. So I will take, there's 5 of us. So how would something like, how would people feel about something like the following? I'm trying to look at what everybody did here and split the apple cart up a little bit. 1,500 at skate. So that's between the 1 and 2,000 that Jennifer and Amanda were recommending. 3,000 on the art. It doesn't fully fund it, but it's somewhere between fully funded that Amanda and Dahi would do more than what a couple of the others of us would do. So kind of splitting that one a little bit. So that's 4,500 would leave 7,500 for the Korean War Memorial. I did my math right. So to something in the neighborhood of skate 1,500, art 3,000, memorial 7,500. I don't have my math right on that.
Jim, I think you want 8,000 for the interpretive,
yeah,
for the foundation.
Thank you for somebody else doing the math. Yeah, so skate 1,500, art 3,000, memorial 8,000. Is that in the neighborhood of something folks are comfortable with? Folks want to kick out some other ideas, advocate stronger one way or the other?
I think that sounds good.
That was Jennifer, okay.
I agree. I like it. And actually, based on what other people have said too, I've even come a little bit more on board on something towards the skate thing, just because I personally also like skateboarding and would hate to discourage him and want to keep him actively involved and support him somehow. So I would actually probably come up again. 1,500 seems like in the ballpark of where I would come up as well. So
okay. And I got some contacts in the skate community I can work with a little bit. And Cameron might also, I have no idea, but I do have some contacts and can maybe look at, you know, getting more bang for the dollar buck and looking at some options there.
So are we okay that the equipment shall be handed out?
No, I think the equipment would be, I'm not sure if I quite heard you, Dahi, your hands in front of your face, but
Right,
the equipment would be given out, not rented. Would be given, they would, the kids, the participants would get the equipment, unless we can figure out a way, working with another skate shop or something that has rental equipment that would meet the city's requirements, so.
Will city kind of ensure that equipment stay with the city and not hand to participants?
I'm not sure that the city's prepared to be in a loaner equipment program. They don't have one of any kind that I'm aware of at the moment.
Well, so my concern that if the equipment is handed out to the participants, that kind of goes exactly against what he just said earlier. Right? You are setting up precedents for other sports.
Well, I think I understood it as he was planning like an event, not like a series of classes. It was going to be like a one day, you show up, I'm going to teach you how to do this, and here's the equipment that you need. So it was kind of like an all inclusive thing.
Yeah, I'm okay with supporting the event. But on the other hand, I can think of multiple reasons. You know, once you hand out those things free of charge to the participants, I'm sure other sports organizations look at this, they're going to jump on that.
Well, if they do that, then we can always address it when it comes up. Right?
There is some remedy about what after, you know, how the equipment are handled afterwards. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've had the same skateboard since I was like 16 years old, and it's still going strong. So I'm hoping that like if we do this and it works out as this guy wants it to, then they'll have a long life and make many people happy. Or they'll just move furniture when you get older. I don't know.
Jennifer, were you
Can we dictate to him what exactly he does with in regards to giving away equipment? Personally, if my daughter were attending something like this, I would probably love her to, you know, at least have a skateboard herself already, and it's just a bonus if she walked away with that. But you know, precedent aside, I don't know that, you know, many people would really even know that the city gave them the funds to do that. So it's not like we're going to be really broadcasting this, or he is going to be broadcasting this. I like the idea more about the kids being taught to do something safely, and him being passionate about this. So that's why I like giving him the money. So, you know, ideally the kids that show up that don't have a skateboard, maybe this will be something that really changes them, gets them outside, and is an added bonus, and maybe that they keep forever. So yeah, I'm okay with him giving it away is what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be broadcast.
One thing I didn't really think about was just that it's if he did give away the skateboards, it'd be such a limited amount of people that would actually be able to participate. Mm-hmm. You figure if $1,500 and we're factoring $100 a skateboard, and I don't know how much helmets cost, but we'll say 10 skateboards is $1,000 and 10 helmets is $500. Yeah, it means you can really only have 10 participants. So if he advertised it as, oh, come out, get a free skateboard and learn to skate, realistically, it'd be such a limited number of people that might actually be benefited from it. I don't know if it is valuable.
Well, maybe that's a reason to give him maybe $2,000 and maybe take, you know, an extra $500 away from the Korean War.
I think one of the things I was struggling with is that if you're giving away boards, you'll get 20 people to sign up.
Right.
So that's why I was more trying to think about, you know, how would you structure it differently where, you know, either, you know, funding for 5 or 6 boards so that if people don't have a board, he can loan them a board, but he keeps the boards for future classes. Now, we don't have any idea what the, you know, will he be, you know, it's not like Wilsonville Art that's been around for 20 plus years. You're going to be there every year. It just gets tricky. Yeah. You know, and then it's like, well, is it the first 10 people that sign up, the first 10 people that sign up that don't have a board? I mean, it's some of those logistics get a little tough. I hold it. Number 11 doesn't get a board.
Right.
And so those are some of the things that cause me problems.
We're going to have this meeting like this in 6 months, right? So I think it's probably for Carmen to go back and make a little detailed plan in terms of the concerns we raised here, and come back in 6 months.
One thing I'm wondering about is there, and Brian help me out here because going down a bunny trail that we haven't been down before that I know of, but you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, is could we earmark $1,500 towards skate with an assignment for me and somebody else, Erica, to try to work and structure a program that kind of meets the concerns of the board. And if we can get there, then great, here's the $1,500. If we can't get there, drop it back to the Korean War Memorial. And, you know, we should be able to figure that out in 60 days.
As you said, this is a road we've not gone down before. I do hesitate a bit to earmark anything. I think what the board would need to do tonight would be to allocate those funds at whatever amount you wanted. And per the guidelines of the application, if the applicant cannot complete the project, then they would be asked to give the funds back. That 1,500 would then go into the 12,500 available to allocate in the next grant cycle. I don't think we could do anything to retroactively allocate it to a different group the way this particular project or program is structured. And I've always cautioned the board on trying to be event organizers or event producers or consultants, and you are a grant review board, and your job in front of you is to review the grant as it was presented. And should we want to do things outside of that to help out various projects, I would support it, but I'd be very careful holding anything over somebody based on funds allocated tonight.
Good advice.
Is there a liability that the city incurs by giving funds to the skateboard because if somebody gets hurt doing this? I know this is a question after the fact. I probably should have asked him if he had insurance, but what happens there?
The money tonight does, well, I'll preface this, I'm not a lawyer. But the money tonight is simply funding for a program. Any of our instructors that teach do provide the city with insurance. Anyone that hosts an event with the city does provide us insurance. So from that regard, these funds would simply be funds for the event, and the liability piece is handled separately.
Great, thank you.
I would still like to give him funding with the plan that we had set out.
Okay. Nate,
I'd revert personally back to my full funding of the Korean War Monument, but I'm more than happy to agree upon something if that seems to be something else that everyone's interested in.
I think the full funding of the Korean War Memorial would take the full balance of what we're allowed to give out. So that would mean funding only that and not either the arts or the skate. Is that what you want to do, or?
If you were just asking me, yes, that's what I would do with the money. But if we need to come to a group consensus, then I'm more than open to, cater to if everyone else is on board with funding this gate, or everyone else is on board with funding the art project or art committee, then by all means, I'd be open to doing that as well.
Okay. Although not a perfect solution for everybody, I think there are enough votes to do skate 1,500, art 3,000, Korean 8,000. Amanda or Jennifer, unless there's anybody's got real strong heartburn on that, would Jennifer or Amanda like to make a motion for the group to then opine on?
I make a motion to accept it.
Could you say what the motion is?
I make a motion to fund $1,500 for the skate park, $3,000 for the art at Charbonneau, and the remaining funds of $8,000 for the Korean War Memorial.
Ryan, I'm looking for my notes on how we process here.
Jim, I'm going to be thorn in your side on that motion. It also needs to include no fund. If the board does not want to fund anything for the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Communities, that motion needs to include that.
Okay. And so no funding for the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive. So that motion is amended.
Okay. Can I get a second on that motion?
I second that.
We have a second from Amanda. Any additional discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 So that's Jim, Jennifer, Amanda, and Nathan, I believe. All those opposed?
I didn't turn the speaker on.
Dahi, were you trying to talk before we voted? Did I miss that?
No, I said aye, but I didn't turn my speaker on.
Okay.
Turn my mic on.
You did say aye. Okay. Thank you. So I think we have a unanimous positive vote for that. So thank you everyone for participating and joining in on the discussion and helping us come to a conclusion that kind of was not perfect for any one person, but we got close. And I think that will be a good resolution for the community and the groups that are participating. So thank you all very much.
Jim, if I may.
Yes. Thank you.
For those applicants that are still with us, if you receive funding from the board this evening, myself or Brittany will be reaching out to you with a couple forms that need to be filled out and submitted back to us. So we should be able to do that sometime early next week. But if you have any questions, please contact someone at the Parks and Rec admin office. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you for all the people that presented tonight. Appreciate it very much. And with that, we'll move to the next phase of the agenda, which now is the director report from Chris Ammerman.
Hello, I'm Chris Ammerman. I'll start with that. I'm new in my position and new to the city, and so this is my first opportunity to meet with the Parks Board. So just a little background on me. I'm an Oregon native. My background is in parks and previous to that golf courses, so I'm thrilled to be here. I've been here since the end of July, so just still kind of working on getting my feet under me. but I'm just, like I said, thrilled to be here. We have a great Parks and Rec team, and really the greater City of Wilsonville team has just been very welcoming and inclusive to me. And yeah, I'm excited to work with you folks and do great things for this community and this park system. Couple other announcements of the department. So you'll notice that Asaman is no longer with us. She departed last month. She went to take on some different challenges, and so it was with regrets that we said goodbye to her. She, we want to thank her for her 7+ years of service to the city. She was a great asset when she was here, and we wish her well. Brittany in Osman's stead has stepped in to fill that role, which she has done in the past, and she's done a great job, as well as the whole team, to just pull together and fill that void while we look to replace or fill that position, which we will be doing shortly. So stay tuned for that. Can't think of anything else significant as far as staff changes. Dustin is still with us. He just could not make it tonight. And so to kick off the report, or kind of each division's report, I'm going to share my screen and share a little slide presentation based on what we have cooking in as far as park projects. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're seeing the slideshow or like the presenter's notes, but
slideshow.
Okay, great. So yeah, starting out, we have, if you've seen some activity there on the far end of Memorial Park and you're wondering what's going on there, it's the Nature Play project. This has been a team focus over the last 3 months. It aligns with the Memorial Park Master Plan. It's grant funded, but as you can see, there's been a significant amount of team time devoted to it to, try to leverage those funds and make those go even further. And we have a grand opening scheduled for November 17th at 10 a.m. This has been just a great project. It allows the team to use their creativity and come up with a really unique offering for the community. And I'm really excited for that to roll out here soon. So if you get a chance, you can sneak a look back there. And again, the grand opening is scheduled for November 17th at 10 a.m.
Hey, Chris, and just in case you have any notes that you don't want us to see, your speaker notes are visible.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to change that. I only have one little tiny screen
click
here.
from beginning in the top left. There you go.
There you go.
Thank you, Erica. All right, so moving on, also in Memorial Park is the new restroom that will be being built. Construction to start in January. This just went past council earlier this month, or maybe it was last month. Yeah, it was in September. And so and it's in line with our accessibility and inclusive goals. It has 6 gender inclusive restrooms. And with that, each individual restroom, when we're slower, we can lock those individual rooms. Say we only need 2 open for a specific amount of time. That kind of saves us labor in the slow season, but it'll also be able to serve kind of the masses in the summertime when we're really busy. And it was pretty astounded to see this number of 160,000 potential users in Memorial Park per year. Dustin gathered that data, and that's pretty impressive as to how many people, you know, we serve in that area. So this will be a real improvement as people are using the athletic fields and anything else Memorial Park. You know, this is a great support facility for all uses, and we're excited to get that kicked off here in January. Currently, there's some community outreach going on for a new neighborhood playground in the River Fox Park. And so if you have the opportunity to go on there and provide us feedback, we would appreciate that. And we're asking the community and especially neighboring residents to weigh in on what that project can look like. Again, with development on the west side and in the Villebois area, there's 2 regional parks, 7 and 8, Tivoli and Allocation will be coming online very soon. And so we'll add to our regional park system in the Villebois area. And then we also have Regional Park 6, I'm not sure how you say that, Cavallo. But that construction is just beginning there, and that's looking out a little further to 2023 as far as a completion date. So we're taking on more parks, and since I've been on board, we've also taken on Edelweiss Park, which I guess, I don't know if that'd be Regional Park 4, not sure. Brian might know, but so yeah, taking on a lot more parks as we go, so lots to do. Wasn't around for this, but I've heard a lot about it. The ice storm in February took out a number of trees, and the park staff and the greater city staff has been working on getting those trees replaced, and working on stump grinding, and now at this point trees are starting to come in, and as you can see, planting is set to begin next month to start replacing some of that lost canopy from that storm, historical storm. And these are also some projects kind of in the works. We're in the exploration phase for some skate park improvements down at Memorial Park. We're in the beginning phases too of looking at replacing the Boone's Ferry playground. And then there are also some things going on with historical signs and updating those around the city. I think there's 77 that will need to be replaced, but we can only do so many each year. So there's funds allocated for that each year to start chipping away at those. And here's a last shot of the nature play area. And it's coming together. It's made a lot of progress here in the last few months. So with that, I will field any questions and then turn it back to you, Jim. Then I can stop.
Any questions for Chris?
My screen.
I heard a rumor at the dog park that you guys were going to be I guess putting more gravel down in there. Was that just rumor? Like around the large dog park, the picnic
There's
area.
always rumors going around at the dog park.
I know.
I have heard the same rumor though.
I didn't know if there was a certain person that maybe made the request and then it became so.
I think
Go ahead, Erica. I'm not sure. I haven't heard the rumors. So
I think I have heard Dustin mention that he does want to extend that gravel portion that's like right as you walk in, because I know it gets super muddy in there come rainy season. So I have heard him mention that. I haven't heard if it's like a finalized or moving forward.
Okay. I was just asking. My dog was enjoying the puddles the other day. There's such a beautiful wash station though that it was great.
So for the two parks of Olanka and Tivoli, which one's at Tivoli, which one's Olanka? By Coffee Creek Drive?
Yes, so the one with the restroom and the basketball court, that's Tivoli. And then further south along that linear corridor would be Olanka.
Okay, so there is a trail by Tivoli, other kind of against the trees. I walked there a couple of times, and that trail there's a portion of it is, I think it's below you in the water. Every time even sprinkler would have flooded the trail.
Oh, yes.
So
yeah. Yeah, that I noticed that too. And that was, we did a final, well, not a final, a pre-final walk through with the developer. And that was something that we wanted them to correct, is drainage in that area, because it was midsummer and it was flooded. So yeah, either they're running the water way too much or there's just not adequate drainage. So that's something, we haven't taken that one over yet. And so as part of the final takeover, we do a walkthrough, and then we flag thing like that needs addressed, and that goes on their final punch list. So then we won't accept it until those things are taken care of. So yeah, that's in the works.
Okay, that's good.
All right, thank you, Chris. Is somebody presenting the parks report for Dustin, or is there anything additional, or was that all covered in what you did?
That was his report.
Okay, yeah. All right, Erica, anything on the recreation side?
Of course. So I can't believe we haven't really, I was looking back at the meeting notes, and I think the last thing I updated you all on was Spring Fling was going to be happening in April, which feels like a year ago. So it went well, in case you were curious. But our summer, I'm just going to give you like a real quick recap of the last 6 months. So our summer, despite COVID, was for some of our programs the busiest summer that we've had since I've been here, which is wild. And we only had, that I know of, one potential COVID case all summer. So I'll take that as a win. The block party was at the end of August. That went well. It was definitely slower than years past, but still a pretty good turnout. The band was great. We had some food trucks and some activities going on. I was at the end of August. Coming up here, we've got our annual Harvest Festival is actually this Saturday. So if anyone is around, we'll take volunteers for setup and breakdown. If anyone wants to, let me know. It is Saturday, so it's coming up quick. The event itself is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We've got a donut and coffee truck. We've got an acoustic band that's going to be performing. We've got a bunch of different activities, free pumpkins, crafts. The library's doing their story time, so it should be, and the weather looks good. So I think it's going to be a really great turnout. And we've moved all the activities to be kind of outside, like around the barn, instead of being in the barn in years past, so that people don't have to all mask up in the barn. Other than that, our Mini Hoopers program is starting on Monday. That also looks a bit different due to COVID. We're just having teams, instead of a team playing another team on the weekend, they're just going to break their own team in half and play like 4-on-4 games, so that the exposure is limited to one team in case anything were to happen, that only one team has to quarantine instead of 2 or more. So definitely a different program, but we've still got some pretty strong participation this year. So that's good to see. And that is all running with volunteer coaches. And then looking slightly ahead, feels crazy, but we are going to be starting the toy drive on November 1st. So I think our tree is getting delivered the day after Halloween, and we'll put that up and start collecting toys. for the toy drive, and Winterfest programming or the tree lighting that typically goes along with that is still kind of being tentatively scheduled. We don't quite know what that looks like yet. So we shall see.
Erica, do you have an idea how many kids are in Mini Hoopers this year?
I want to say it's like 63.
Okay.
Typically it's about 140.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely lower. But I think it's A, just because of COVID. B, I think I somewhat intentionally did a little bit less marketing this year because I didn't want a ton of kids inside. They don't have to wear masks while they're playing basketball, and that kind of makes me nervous. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm pretty happy with it, in all honesty.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Erica? If not, Brian on the community center update.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so I guess just a quick recap. So as Erica did, we opened our doors again on a limited basis, probably 2.5 months ago now. Everything's just kind of been a blur, but we initially opened up for drop-in programs. So that includes, things like bridge or bingo, or we have a photography group. So those groups have come back and been happy. Some groups have been hesitant, and that's understandable given the older adult population that we serve. But for us, it's just a matter of providing that space for socialization and getting folks back out that feel comfortable being back out. And when everyone else is ready, we'll be ready for them. Our Congregate meal program, which is the meal program, the lunch program we do at the center, has not resumed yet. We had tentatively aimed for some time here in the fall, and then with everything that kind of spiked, we put the pause on that. So still looking at that to bring back at some point, but it's going to be a ways out still. But our home delivered meal program, known in other communities as Meals on Wheels, has really grown through the pandemic, and I can't say enough about our nutrition staff and other staff that has a part of that. But we've got about 100 clients that we serve on a daily basis with the lunch program. So being able to serve the community there has been great. The indoor mask mandate did put a bit of a kibosh on some of the things that we were trying to do and bring back. We have an older adult fitness class that we just didn't feel comfortable bringing back in with the indoor mask mandate. The I-5 Community Connection choir that meets until the mask mandate goes away, they didn't want to come back inside and sing. And some of our other fitness classes, whether it be the mask or just comfort levels, have either moved outside or have just been on hold. So all things considered, we're up, we're going, and I feel like we're doing our best to serve those that are ready to be back and active again. Erica mentioned the toy drive. The other piece of that community outreach that we do as part of the toy drive is our senior stocking program. And that's a program that goes to our home delivered meal clients. So the way that program looks, we ask community members to find a holiday stocking and fill it up with a number of items, and those details can be found on our website. And then we get those out to those that are in the program. So that we're starting that again on November 1st. So it parallels the timeline of the toy drive, and happy to provide you more information on that. And then one part update that I just want to point out, it kind of, it highlights that partnership that we have with the Korean War Memorial Foundation. Dustin was able to get a contractor out that it's a 2-part program, but they were able to repaint and resurface the Korean War Memorial wall. So if you go out there, all the names on the wall really pop right now. All the different emblems from the service branches have been repainted. So a really a remarkable refresh. I don't think any of us realized how faded it had gotten over the last few years, but the refresh that he was able to facilitate has been remarkable. And I know that the veterans are really happy of that piece. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Any general board comments before we wrap up for the evening? Any Tom Brady fans running to get Thursday night football? Okay, I think hearing no questions and smiles on the screen, I think we are done for the evening. So I think we are good to adjourn unless Chris or Brian or Erica have anything that I've forgotten. All right, well, good evening, folks, and thank you very much.
Hi, everyone.
And Brittany.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Take care.